Welcome to Broad Eye, the podcast that explores knowledge gaps in ophthalmology and eye care. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Broad Eye podcast. My name is Sean Maloney, and today I will be speaking with two representatives of a company called eSight, an exciting technology company in the low vision space. So first off, we have Brian McCollum. He is the Chief Commercial Officer, as well as Richard Weatherford, who is an eSight coach and a real-life user of the technology. So gentlemen, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Sean.
Thanks, Sean.
So Brian, I thought we could start off with you, and I was hoping you could give us a little bit of background about the company. You know, what is eSight? What is the technology? And also maybe your story and how you got involved with the company.
For sure. So eSight is a very interesting story. It started with the original founder is a gentleman named Conrad Lewis, who is based in Canada. He has two sisters who currently even still live today with Stargardt's disease. And so Stargardt's, being the juvenile form of macular degeneration, they essentially were looking for a solution that would allow them to continue to do the things they enjoy doing. And so Conrad set out to develop a device that would do that. And so in early 2013, he got to his first prototype design, which was essentially the eSight 1, or the original product, and really just kept, for lack of a better word, tinkering around and trying to make it better. And so by 2015, they launched, the second generation product, and we've launched a new product about every 2 years since. And essentially what it does is it takes the concept of a camera that is attached to a head-mounted device that's wearable, where people can remain mobile, and it pulls images into two screens that are right in front of the user's eyes. So what it's really doing is help compensate for gaps that those users might have. And so it's an interesting story. The company's been around now for right at about the 10-year mark. And we're excited about kind of the current version we have that we launched last summer and where we think technology is going.
Oh, that's a good overview. As you're talking, it's just bringing back a memory of when I first heard about the technology. I don't know if it would have been with the version 1 or version 2, but it was a news piece about a gentleman who was using this, and to be able, him and his wife were able to sit and watch the hockey game together. So that really speaks to me as a Canadian. I don't know if that news piece rings a bell, or if you just had thousands of news pieces over the years.
Yeah, we've had several, obviously, news coverage over the years, but we do find, that individual is not alone. There's a lot of things that these folks want to be able to do, and it could be, from holding a job, or it could be as simple as watching TV and watching the hockey game. And so what we've tried to do over the iterations of the product is really try to adapt the technology so that those things can be done. And quite honestly, we're going to talk to Richard here in a little bit, but the coaching process that occurs that we kind of, provide as part of the device is really where these individuals get to dive into the things they really want to do and allow these coaches to truly take them through the device and get the best out of it. Whether it's watching hockey or whether it's having a job or going to school, the goal is really to provide something that they can just have to do life with.
No, I think that's good. But no, why did you, if you don't mind me asking, why did you get involved with the company, or what was the alignment, I guess, for you? You obviously, as you're talking, I can tell that you're passionate about the technology. I'm just curious, what was that? What's that journey look like for you getting involved?
Yeah, for sure. So I've only actually been at eSight about 18 months now. I actually got exposed to eSight in early 2020. I've spent my whole career in healthcare, primarily in what you would consider typical healthcare, orthopedic devices, implant devices, selling to hospitals, selling through surgeons, through prescriptive devices and things like that. And so really, coming at it from a healthcare perspective, when I got exposed to eSight, just looking at how assistive technology, or how devices that I compare, pretty equally to healthcare or medical devices, are treated completely different in our healthcare system. And so being based in the US, so I'm based in the US, looking at how the US government treats certain technologies, I was just intrigued that technology is advancing to the point to where we now can do more with it. They are beginning to look more like, wearable medical devices that you would see that are treating certain conditions or helping people live with certain conditions that they have. And I felt like there's a path here for us to be able to get this, to make it more accessible to individuals. And so as you begin to dive into what that population looks like, as we all know, it's an ever-growing population. The big conditions that people talk about being macular degeneration, there is no cure for this. And so we've only got individuals who are aging into these types of conditions. And so to be able to say, hey, let's develop a device, let's find a way to make it more accessible. That's really what excites me. I'm not really a techie type of person. I'm more about how can we create a product that meets the needs of individuals, and then how can we get that paid for? And I think that's a big gap in this space in the United States for sure.
Just as you're talking, it makes me, think, and I've looked at the technology in this way before. Often when people are looking from the outside and they say, oh, there's going to find a treatment or something for blindness or low vision, that's great. But they look at people on both ends of the spectrum. They say people who are either sighted or they're not. But the reality is that there are, the vast majority would fall, who have any sort of visual deficit would fall somewhere in that spectrum. And that's where I think a technology like this is really paramount and can really, deliver a lot of value. But maybe Richard can actually comment on that. Richard, you are a real life user of the technology and also an eSight coach. So maybe you can just share with the audience, your experience using the technology and, how you ended up becoming a coach with the organization.
So when I was in college, I was very involved with our assistive technology lab. We had one at Purdue where I could just go and use, Criswell and different things at the time. Obviously, eSight didn't exist at that point, or at least I didn't know about it, right? And so through that kind of stuff, I knew I wanted to be somewhere in the space, or at least I really enjoyed helping my fellow students kind of get through stuff. At this point, I had been legally blind for quite a few years, and so I enjoyed helping teach people that were coming in, and then I think that just kind of stuck with me throughout the years. And then when I was introduced to eSight, and the first eSight that I had was an eSight 3, and it was pretty groundbreaking for me. And I remember going in and doing a demo, and my mom had made me this book, kind of like a baby book, but not exactly. It had a lot of pictures and a lot of sentimental stuff from when my daughter was born, but there were things in it that I never really even saw. And during that demo, I was reading different things that she put in it, and I could see the picture so clearly, and it was kind of an emotional day. And at that moment, I knew that this technology was going to help me greatly. And from that point on, I pretty much just dove into it. And then later, when eSight 4 came out, of course, I jumped on it to upgrade, and I can't tell you how much I love my eSight 4. I just love everything about it. But one of the big things for me is just the independence that it gives me, and the reassuredness that I get from being able to do things with my daughter. It just gave me an ability to do the things that I had wanted to do. I never miss a practice. I've never missed any school function, but I also, before I got the eSight, never actually could see them. And being able to be there and actively be there and actively, I can remember going to this, it was like a school play type music, thing, and sitting in the middle of an auditorium, and I picked my daughter out on stage, and I couldn't believe it. I'm like shaking my wife. I'm like, look, she's right there, like so excited. And and those are the kinds of things that it gives back to you. Those were the kinds of things that just, fired me up even that much more. And I'm like, if I'm getting this much good out of it, and I've learned to really, I've learned how to fine tune the settings, and I've learned what to do in different situations. I knew that I could help others with, be able to teach them as well.
So, you said a lot of things that really hit home with me. And I think that one thing I'm going to have to talk with you gentlemen about maybe offline after is how I can demo this myself. And as I mentioned before, I have retinitis pigmentosa, and what you're saying about school plays or whatever with the kids, just I'm the same way. I don't miss them, but engaging actively is difficult. And when my kids are 3, 4, 5 years old, it's like, hey, daddy's great, daddy's in the crowd, my daddy's there, hello. My wife would poke me, hey, they're waving at you. But as they're a bit older, sometimes, like, my kids are, they're 10, 9, and 8 now. And, they know that I'm there, but I can't see what's going on. And so it's not the same as, if there was a way to actively engage and see my daughter doing gymnastics or my son playing soccer. These things they're you almost like, I sound terrible, but almost like welling up as you're telling me the emotion side of things, right? And I think that anything that can give that back to people is huge. But so sorry, go ahead. You were going to say something.
Oh, I just wanted to add to that, something, as a parent yourself, you'll probably relate to this, but, for me, because I have Stargardt's and I don't have any central vision left, like, it's pretty much taken its toll. And once your child is, 4 or 5 feet away, or if they just happen to be in that right central vision spot, she's gone. She disappeared. And the fear that you have when you're on a playground and all of a sudden you're looking around and they're gone. And they're not, but you can't see them. And getting the eSight and being able to, like, track her down and it also took a lot of anxiety away. It took a lot of, it helped my mental health as well as my, just my physical well-being.
Yeah, I have no doubt on that. Can you just maybe comment on, what coaching looks like then? So when you have somebody who's new to eSight and you're working as a coach, what does that dynamic look like?
Oh, it's awesome. So it's one-on-one, right? And we're given the time and ability to really work with our patients. And of course we teach them, all the ins and outs of the device. But where it gets really fun is we talk about their goals and, what they want to do. Just like you're talking about, the piece with the hockey game. People are telling us that. And once we get them through the basics of you learn the device, then we get to go into, okay, how do we make this the perfect fit for that activity? And it's really fun because sometimes, you're doing problem solving and you're doing a lot of stuff. And I think it's really helpful for the patient because they know that they have someone with them that is a user, number one, that uses it every day, that knows it inside and out, and that also we're kind of that shoulder because you never know where in the process somebody is. And somebody could actively still be losing their sight. Someone could have lost it, a few months prior. Some people may be old hands at this and they're great with assistive tech and they know all that stuff. And it's really great to kind of take them through that journey and relate the stories and, all while trying to achieve those goals that they set out for themselves.
No, that's it sounds like a really rewarding job. It seems like when you're doing work that you're passionate about, then it's not work at all, right? So that's
yes.
I'm jealous. I'm kind of jealous. Well, there you go. So I'm doing a podcast. I enjoy that. So, Brian, maybe I can come back to you. I've heard that the eSight 1, the 2, the 3, the 4. Can you maybe just talk a little bit about the evolution of the technology? What has changed with the technology over time that has led to these upgrades, and maybe what do you see in the years ahead for the company and for the technology?
Sure. So the technology, as you can imagine, has pretty much evolved the eSight device has pretty much evolved as technology has evolved, right? So cameras becoming better, batteries becoming smaller, boards processing power, et cetera. But I think where eSight really set out to differentiate itself from the very beginning was this is both a hardware and a software design that is specific to eSight. So as you're probably aware in the space, sometimes software providers take a device that is geared for mass production, whether it's a VR type headset or some type of AR type glasses, if you will, and they basically manipulate a software that tries to do the things by manipulating the image. And so, as you can imagine, there's several shortfalls that occur, right? Because the device wasn't intended specific to low vision. They're basically trying to alter a device. And so eSight from the very beginning set out to create both the hardware and the software. And it's done that successfully through 4 iterations. This latest design that we have launched back in the summer, which is what we're calling eSight 4, is really a halo design. And so what happens is we determined that mobility was one of the #1 issues that we needed to solve for. It's not that folks, are uncomfortable having a wire connected to it from a control perspective, but we just felt like if there was the ability to have a hands-free device, 100% wireless, still included our patented bioptic tilt, which we'll talk about how that impacts mobility. The ability for interchangeable batteries. So, you don't have to solve a rechargeable situation. Our batteries are 100% interchangeable. You can take them out, put a new one in, the last 2 to 3 hours. So on about 3 batteries, you can pretty much go all day. It was extremely important for us to have that concept in our new technology, even though the new device, while maybe looks a little bigger, obviously it feels a little heavier because we've put everything into the device, but the way it sits on the head, the weight is evenly distributed. So folks, Richard can weigh in on what the comfort is of wearing it for an extended period of time, which they do. But we felt like the users, the feedback we got from them was, hey, while yeah, it's a little bit heavier, the way it sits and fits on our head is way more comfortable. And so on the mobility side, so for us, we've gotten now to proof of concept. We've gotten to version 4. We've got a new form factor that is the Halo design. The eSight 4 was a 100% redesign of their software system. And so what we were able to do is we offer over-the-air updates. So now if you have a device, we are able to send to you, just like with your phone, right? You get updates to your phone. We fix certain things. They add certain features. We're able to do that. And we actually just launched this past week, our first over-the-air update for eSight 4. So we're really excited about not only the hardware design and its comfort and mobility and how it aids to that, but really the software platform that's been developed and the way, we can hopefully tailor it. There'll probably be some AI that's built into it, really finding ways to better produce products solely intended for the low vision community, which is a little bit different than what you might see amongst our competitors in the market.
No, that makes a lot of sense. And then maybe Richard, maybe you can weigh in on that, on these technological advances. From a user's perspective, how have they impacted the experience, and how do you foresee some of the forthcoming changes impacting the experience from the user's perspective and from a coaching perspective?
So just from where I started with eSight 3 and then where we're at now with eSight 4, it's hard to say, like, it's improved so much, but when you say it's improved, it's like, well, but the 3 was so good. It was so good, but it actually got better. I love that the weight is evenly distributed, and the one thing that I absolutely love with the 4, it's I have the ability to bring the screens in right up next to my eyes, and that was really important for me. The other thing that you can do that is really nice is I am very light sensitive. And so I can still wear my sunglasses and just give the visor a little bit extra distance and bring it down so that my sunglasses are blocking out all of my natural, the light that I can't handle. And I'm still able to see through the screens because of the extra brightness that is on the eSight 4 screens. So everything that I've seen, the way that it's evolved has been unbelievable. I'm starting from a place, like I said, when I was in school, that you didn't have, there wasn't anything wearable, right? And the only things that you really had available to you were on a visual, on a visual level, was like a CCTV. And I'm sure, like many listeners out there, I've wore out my share of CCTVs. But I did a lot of things in college, auditory, because I had no other choice. I just couldn't, it wasn't feasible to do it really in any other way. And so once I got turned on to eSight, it was bringing all that back, and it brought an independence that came with the mobility. It brought and if I could just mention the mobility, that it is one of the key aspects of what makes eSight different. Brian mentioned the bioptic tilt. I keep my eSight. So number one, I wear my eSight almost all day long, right? Whether I'm actively looking through the visor or not, I will still keep my eSight on. Now I might put it in standby if I'm not looking right through the visor at that moment. But like I said, what's really nice about that is I can just reach up, pop it right back in. And what that does is it allows me to be able to look at my, if I want to look across the room, see what time it is on the microwave or something like that, all I have to do is lower that visor or lower that tilt. And so I use it a lot of times in this bioptic tilt, in kind of like bifocals, in a way where I'm retaining some of my natural sight and some of my peripheral, but I can just lower my head, look, glance up, and I have that enhanced magnification where I can see things a lot further away. So when you're walking, you don't have it, necessarily flat in front of your eyes all the way down. You get it at that tilt. But what's nice about that is I can glance up, and now all of a sudden I'm looking at street signs and I can read them. But I don't have, I don't feel like I have horse blinders on, right? To where I can't see anything around me. So it's really the best of both worlds in that respect. And it's something that I really treasure and wish had been around, when I was making my way through campus.
No, for sure. I can certainly relate to that. Maybe I'll come back to you, Brian. Richard's talking about his background with, Stargardt's disease. Who else is this technology for? Yeah, I mean, you alluded to macular degeneration, but is there a group of degenerative eye conditions that this is for and not for? And maybe if you can just explain why that is.
Well, so if you generally think about it, central vision loss is really kind of at a high level what we feel like we can impact the most. And so as you naturally think of the volumes of folks that suffer from a macular degeneration, or Stargardt's, diabetic retinopathy is another one that comes to mind that is kind of large out there. Retinitis or retinopathy of prematurity, anything that's kind of affecting that central vision loss. Retinitis pigmentosa, and we've done some work around success factors that we see. So for example, a 15-degree field of view seems to be, kind of that lower level. If you have less than a 15-degree, sometimes there's just not enough that can get in there. And so it really depends on kind of your specific condition. And because everyone's conditions are unique, our job really is around awareness, right? And accessibility, and just allowing folks to try it. I mean, as you can imagine, in the medical world, a lot of times you have devices and you really don't know if they actually truly impact the care of the patient or if they truly have an outcome. You do clinical trials, you determine it. I mean, pretty immediately if you put this device on your head, within 5 minutes, does it work for you, right? Does it actually cause you to see better? And so that's kind of the approach we've taken is, look, how do we make people aware that something exists? And then how do we make it accessible for them to try that? And so while, there's standard, 4 or 5 key conditions that we see, that doesn't mean it's not going to work for other folks, because it really is dependent upon your unique condition. And so we do that a couple of different ways. Historically, the company had really taken that direct to consumer approach, just because it was a new technology, and to getting the professionals, the low vision optometrist or that ophthalmologist to understand what it was and how to incorporate it into their practice. The company historically gravitated toward that kind of direct to consumer. We have now, since with the launch of eSight 4, began to put these demo units into clinicians' offices, whether that's in the US or Canada. Most of them are sitting in what you would call a low vision specialist or a low vision optometrist. They may be sitting at a VA facility, at a state agency. And so what we've tried to do is say, hey, we need to expose as many people to the device and the advancements in technology, for the quite simple fact that we want you to try it. We want someone to be able to get their hands on this, and be able to say, does it work for me? And that's the first gate. And if it works, then it's about, okay, will I incorporate this into my daily life? Does it help me enough to warrant the cost of it? Because cost absolutely will be a factor until we get more mainstream reimbursement or more mainstream coverage for it. And then that's kind of where the coaches come in. So you've made a decision, it works for you. Now, yes, I will incorporate it, but I really want to make sure I get the most out of it. And so really we want people to try it. And then it's as simple as that.
No, and that, maybe that I'll wrap up with my next question, which is, is a nice segue here. As somebody who maybe would like to try this, and people listening to this obviously would be part of that group, including, the eye care professionals that would listen to this, how does somebody go about learning more about eSight, about the technology, about, where they can demo it, et cetera?
For sure. So the best place to come is to our website, esighteyewear.com, and we can get you the links to that. We can get you some phone numbers as well, and to put in the notes. But really come to our website. You'll be able to get to see, the current product. You'll be able to get to learn a little bit about the company. We have a home experience process, and we were doing Zoom before Zoom was cool. And so we have been operating into this telehealth world for almost since the inception, quite honestly. And so we've got it down to a pretty good science. There's a screening process that we'll go through. It's very basic, 3 or 4 questions. If you're a good candidate and we think that you'll see gain for it from the device, we'll get you one shipped to your house. You'll spend 7 to 10 days with the device. You'll go through it with one of our account executives that are working with these folks. And then if it works for you, then you make the decision on whether you think it's something you want to incorporate into your toolbox. And then the coaching part comes into it. The other thing we have done, if it's a low vision professional or an ophthalmologist, if you think, or they think that they see enough low vision patients, that they have folks that they're currently treating or currently seeing that could benefit from such technology, they can also find us via the physicians page on our website. And we have a team that works with them directly, talking about, how they think it could fit into their practice. And we're happy to send them a demo out free of charge. We're not charging the physician to put it into their practice. We'd like for them to have it for 30 or 60 days, see if they can incorporate it into their practice. And then if they can, great. If they're routinely showing it, we have no problem leaving it there. Or if they're saying, hey, we don't see enough patients for us to have an asset here, they can simply refer them back to us, and we can put them through our home experience process.
No, I think that's certainly a nice overview. So hopefully people listening to this will take you up on that, both the patients and physicians. And like you mentioned in the show notes that we publish along with the episode, we'll include links to this information. So Brian, Richard, I'd like to thank both of you for joining today. I know I've learned a little bit here. I knew a little bit about the technology ahead of time, but I definitely have some nuggets of wisdom to take away. And just lots of thoughts. I have a lot of friends and colleagues in that space who I'm definitely going to be sharing this episode with, if they're not already following the podcast, although they should be. But I want to take the opportunity to thank you both for joining me today to share your information.
Thanks, Sean.
Yeah, we appreciate the opportunity, Sean, and let us know what you need and your folks, and we'll try to help them best we can.
Excellent. Thank you. And that concludes today's episode of the Broad Eye Podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcast platform. Of course, ratings and reviews are always welcome. And you can certainly share this episode with any of your colleagues or friends who might enjoy it. Thanks for listening.